Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Sober Fix podcast channel.
Oh, come on, man. Not another stupid intro.
What, dude? The people like it.
The people don't like it.
All right, fine. Here's Robert Pardon, almost 40 years of sobriety, completely transformed his whole life, helps a lot of people. Enjoy the episode, guys. All right, we are back. We got Robert Pardon on, Becoming Well Now, recovery guy. You guys have seen him a bunch on here. Takes time to come on and share all of his experience. Been sober for a lot of years, and he understands this recovery thing. He gets it, and it's a lot of fun. So thank you again, Robert. Robert, why don't you tell us what's been going on with you over there in Florida?
You know, it's been really exciting. I've been here 7 months now and reacclimating, and I figured out what meetings I like to go to, which are more consistent with my sobriety and my approach to wellness. And it's been really great. I've met a lot of fabulous people, and it's been really exciting. As you and I had talked earlier before the meeting, before our recording started, I'm starting a new meeting. It's called the Toolbox, and it's a meeting that I learned about from Akron, Ohio, the birthplace of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the Toolbox centers around newcomers who need instruction as to what things that they need for long-term sobriety. Because as you know, and I know, we all start out one day at a time and we continue one day at a time. But throughout the course of our journey, we need to begin adopting different things and different approaches to our recovery that not only ensure us for the short term, but allows us to stay long term, like get a sponsor, develop a relationship with a power greater than yourself, go to meetings, work the steps, read the 12 and 12, read the big book, change old playgrounds and old playmates, all the things that you and I and others like us have incorporated into our daily life, but how one by one, the newcomer needs to adopt and incorporate into their daily living. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And we were talking about it earlier, but the Toolbox, I just love that name. It's and that's really what recovery's given me is a way to, because towards the end it was like no matter what was going on, the only toolbox I had, at least the last few years for sure, was reaching to drugs and alcohol. That was
Yeah.
it. Like that was the solution for everything. That's all I really knew how to do towards the end. That's all I really wanted to do. Felt like I didn't have any other choice. And then fast forward, all of a sudden I'm sober, and it's a good thing though. I feel like when I look back and when I first started, it was nice to be able to go somewhere where not only did people relate to me, but to have kind of that guidance is nice. Like have
Yeah.
people that have been sober way longer than you that can give you an answer. Cause I know for me, like towards the end, I needed someone, I needed some help. I just needed help. And to have someone to, a place to go where people could say, hey, look, these are the tools that we've incorporated into our life, and this is how we do it. Is that kind of what's going to go on over there? Just really guiding people and helping them incorporate this recovery stuff into their life?
That's exactly right. And I was talking to a person the other day. A lot of the reason I do what I do in terms of the tools that I've like change old playgrounds on old playmates, read the big book, work the 12 steps, get a sponsor, go to meetings, don't drink one day at a time, join a home group, get involved in service. I don't want to be a hypocrite. So when I meet people who are new or relatively new to recovery, if I suggest that you do something, it's only because I'm doing it. And just like the founders of recovery, the founders of the 12 steps, the founders of AA, they have told us not what to do. They've told us what they have done and what they continue to do. And that's what you and I and others like us, Jason Trimble and others like us, Phil and Scott and others, um, we tell you what we're doing. And if you want what we have, right, that's the key. If you want what we have and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps, not steps that we think you should take, but steps we are taking. If you want what we have, you'll do what we do.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not like, "Hey, I didn't do this, but I think it'd be a good idea for you to do it," or, "You're pretty sick. I think you need to do all of them. I did a couple here and there." It's kind of the, what it makes me think about when you were talking about that, it's kind of the lead by example thing too. It's like, "Hey, you can trust us in doing this because number 1, we've already done it. We're not telling you to do something we haven't done." And it kinda reminds me of, my boss. He likes everyone to work really hard, but he's out there in the trenches working insanely hard every single day, and
Yeah.
it's kind of contagious. It kinda makes you think, "Okay, well, you're doing it, so I'm willing to try it too. I'm willing to try it out."
Even to the degree my sobriety date is April 25th, 1986. I'm going on 40 years of personal recovery. What's more powerful, and I do this today, I've been sober 14,526 days in
Wow.
a row. 14,526 days. The reason I remember the day, how many days it's been, is I'm going to ask the newcomer, how many days are you sober? Are you sober 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days, 365 days? What is your day count? I don't want to ask them what's your day count and then say, oh, I've been sober since April 25th, almost 40 years. They'll say, no, but how many days? So I can't ask you a question I can't answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah. So in order to be consistent with the newcomer, and that's my mission in life, it's how can I make this attractive that the newcomer wanted? It says if the newcomers could see on page 132 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says if newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, they would want it. So I need to show that joy, show that fun, show that refreshed approach that they can begin to see themselves as see me as something they would want.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think too, I look back and when I first started and when I kind of was going to meetings and I didn't know anyone yet, and it's important to see that, hey, look, you can enjoy this life sober.
Yeah.
It's important to see because I think that's a big thing too, and I see a lot of people post about this kind of thing today where it's just this thought that when you're getting sober, you're giving up a fun life. At least for some reason, that's what I was thinking. It was like, man, I was thinking about all the things I wasn't going to be able to do for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
And it used to get me depressed. And what I didn't realize at the time was all the extra things I was now going to be able to do, and be able to accomplish. It gave me
Yes.
so much more than it took away, if that makes sense.
It does. And I was so fortunate, and maybe you were as well, Drew. When I first came into recovery, I had some very wise mentors who took me to the promises, who took me to the back of the book and said, if you want to feel this way, if you want this, you'll do that. And it made doing that much more attractive because I knew it's like reading the back of the book first and finding out how the story can end. But in order for the story to end a particular way, I need to read the beginning of the story. I need to begin doing what they did in order to get what they have. And if you talk about, you know, I've never had to romanticize living in a bar. I never had to romanticize. I've never romanticized running out of money, right? Which we do as people of
Yeah.
addiction. I never had to romanticize coming and taking my car at 3 in the morning because it's been repossessed. I never had to be romanticized about being picked up by the police at work and losing my job at the same time as I'm going to jail. I've never romanticized it. I never thought, God, I miss those days. I miss those days when I would turn on the hot water and it would still be cold because I forgot to pay the power bill. I never longed for those days.
Yeah, and I think that makes such a difference too, and I try and remember that stuff if I'm ever in the thick of it and for whatever reason I'm having a crazy, busy, stressful day and or I'm down about something, I try and remember, take a step back, relax, and kind of compare my life today to where it was at, and I pretty much almost instantly feel better when I think about all that stuff. If you know,
Oh, I I was married 2 times, both failed marriages, unfortunately, very good women, just I'm an alcoholic and I was an untreated alcoholic. Today, I've been with Laura 37 years. We've been married 36 years. I finally have a successful relationship. Oh, did I tell you I'm not drinking? So there's a reason that my marriages failed, and there's a reason why this one has been successful. Prior with my failed marriages, I was a practicing alcoholic, working steps that only made sense to me. My successful marriage is I'm not drinking, I'm a treated alcoholic, and I'm working the 12 steps of recovery. There's a connection there somewhere. I'm retired without a care in the world, and I live this wonderful life. And I tell people all the time, I owe AA my life. I owe the rooms of recovery. Everything that's good about me, I owe to the plan of recovery. And this is why you and I, this why you're on the mission that you're on Sober Fix podcast, because you want to share that message of hope to everyone who's willing to make the changes necessary in their life to have what you have.
yeah, and when you're talking about kind of the differences in and you brought up the marriages and stuff. I try and tell people this all the time because I think it's great news. Like, if you look at the person that you were while you were drinking and getting high or whatever, and then you think, okay, well, that's just me. I'm this person who I'm always going to, let's say for your example, I'm always going to have failed marriages. It's like, that's not true. That was you
That's
while you were drinking.
yeah.
And I try and get people to realize this. If you hated the person that you were out there in active addiction, that's good news because you're going to completely change all of that if you follow this recovery path. I try and tell people that because it's just such a crazy difference. It's such a crazy difference. I run around today showing up to work every day on time, going to school and everything. And sometimes I just trip out. I just trip out because I look back on it's just so different from how it used to be, but it's so good. It's so much more fulfilling. I know you know that.
Well, and that's the thing that you and I were talking about this before. To be sober, to be clean and sober is the absence of methamphetamine or crack or whatever our DOC is or alcohol. But to live a recovered life, that's the addition of something. So I stop drinking, I stop using so I can incorporate other things in my life. So again, being clean and sober is the absence of something. Being a recovered person is the addition of something. And it's only the addition of other things, the 12 steps of recovery and practicing the principles in all our affairs. It's only addition of those things that made me even attractive enough that my wife would want to be with me as long as she's wanted to be with me. Because every day I wake up with the expectation of being a better version of me than I was on day 14,525. And I expect to be better if I have an opportunity to live day 14,527, which will be tomorrow. But today, um, there's a Sanskrit poem, and your listeners can look on it. Look to this day and Google it, and it's some. It look to this day for in this day lies all the verities and existence of our life. Look well toward this day, and that's what you and I and others like us we look to do. We look to today. We say, how good of a person can I be knowing what I know now, knowing the mistakes I made yesterday and what I need to do to correct those things today. If I incorporate those, if I really work on those, how good could I be today? Give you an idea of how mundane yet how satisfactory my life is. Being retired, my wife still works. I mopped the floor today, and I stood back after the floor with the kitchen floor was mopped, and I marveled at how much it shined. And that might sound ridiculous to some, but to me, it's everything. There was a time in my life I didn't even have a floor. It wasn't mine. And if it was, I could care less how it looked. I just needed a path from where I was sitting to the refrigerator to get my beer, to get whatever I was. That was the only reason. Now I wonder how shiny can I get this floor to be? And that might sound ridiculous to some, but to me it's everything, because everything I do, and then I took a picture and I sent it to my wife, said, "Doesn't this floor look great?" And it's a joy that I find today in the simple things that encourage me to appreciate the things I've been given, and I've been given a lot.
Yeah, and I think that makes total sense to me. And it's there's something about being in a position where a lot of us find ourselves where we've really struggled and just been down and out and been hopeless and just not found, just believe there's no other way to live a good life. There's something about going from that to then being treated and in recovery, and it's hard to explain, but it's just I feel like what it is it's gratitude. I think a lot of times for me, it's like, and I just care more. It's like you're talking about the shiny floor. It's like I feel like I care more about things in
Yeah.
life. You know, it's is really what it comes down to for me. I want to
You
ask you
know,
this.
and
Oh,
and
go ahead.
and real quick along with that, in the beginning, we all come in the same way. We're all scared to death. It says in the big book, we don't regret the past, nor do we wish to shut the door on it. And Drew, like you, I will never forget being a hopeless alcoholic, a hopeless drug addict, walking into those rooms and thinking, "Oh my God, if this doesn't work, I am screwed. I hope this works." So we all come in the same way. We're afraid, we're alone, because by this time, in most cases, employers have left us, friends have left us, spouses have left us, family members have left us, and we're alone in every sense. We're lonely and we're alone at the same time. And we all hope that, God, if this doesn't work, I'm in trouble, man. And I don't know if I can last another day. Somebody needs to know how sick I am and how afraid I am. And once we let down those walls, then the fellowship of the program, and you remember this exactly as a newcomer, the fellowship of the program, where we're going to like you regardless. The more we know, the more we like you. It's amazing. And in the past, the more someone knew about me, the more they said, "Oh man, stay away from this guy." But in the rooms of recovery, the more you know about me, the more you're convinced I'm the kind of person who needs to come back.
Yeah, and it's a nice change. I think it almost throws most of us off. We
Yeah.
go into a room and man, people were shaking my hand and giving me coffee. I think some of them were like hugging me and stuff. And I remember thinking, how do you know I'm new? Who told you? You know, but they said, dude, I can take one look at you and know that you're walking in here new. Believe me, you haven't slept in like 2 weeks. But yeah, but it was crazy though. And when you're talking about that, Robert, it was the same thing for me. My phone hadn't ring. I hadn't been welcome anywhere in a long time, and to be received like that finally for the first
Yeah.
time in really years
Yeah.
was it was almost weird at first because I wasn't used to it, but it was good. It was good.
In,
It
in a,
was
yeah. In a foreign way, it was good.
yeah.
Here we were, we knew other people who didn't want us around, and we exchanged them for people who didn't know us but wanted us around.
Yeah. Yeah, that was exactly it. And
Yeah.
but the feeling of just I remember finally, because there was times where I went I remember I was forced to go to to meetings and stuff when I was 18 years old. It's when I had just started really drinking and using. It hadn't been that long. I was still in the fun stages. Like there was no one on earth that could tell me that I shouldn't drink or use because it was just so exciting. I didn't have
Yeah.
anything else to compare it to. All I had was fun up here and a little bit of consequences. And
Well,
and it ha
yeah, and I've been quoting this a lot. F. Scott Fitzgerald said, first a man takes a drink, then the drink takes a drink, then the drink takes a man. There's a particular timeline of our romanticizing our addiction, and it seems shiny, it seems exciting. Alcohol or drugs hasn't taken us over quite yet.
yeah, that's where I was at.
Yeah, and we all get that way. Usually 18 to 23, 24 years old, we're in a romanticizing stage of our addiction where we haven't lost as many jobs yet. People haven't stopped asking us to come around. The friends are sort of still there, but then the drugs and the alcohol, they take hold and they have a grip. Bob D says we're in a trap that can't be sprung. And there's nothing worse than knowing that you're trapped and you can't get away. When I came into recovery on February 9th of 1986, um, I looked in the mirror and I was going to die. Here's the caveat to that. And there was nothing I could do about it. Here I was dead with no resolve. I was going to die. I'm 32 years old. I'm going to die, and there's nothing I could do. I had gone down that road, and alcohol and drugs had such a grip on me that there was no escaping. Then you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, that was exactly where I was when I came back in years later, and everything changed. It was like, because I remember when I being 18 and listening to people's stories, and it was like, "Oh, man, I haven't been through that, I haven't been through that, I haven't seen that. Oh my gosh, these people are doing really bad." And
Yeah,
then I came in years later, same age that you're talking about. I believe I was, 31, and it had kicked my ass for a long time, and all of a sudden, it was more like what you were talking about where, you're just scared because you
yeah,
don't know. You've tried so many other things. By the time I came back into the rooms of AA, I had tried so many different things, and it
yeah.
hadn't worked. And there was definitely a lot of fear there because I just didn't know what I was going to do if I couldn't find a way to make it work this time.
You know, it's interesting that you say you tried to find a way. Most of those ways still incorporate, I'm going to drink, I'm going to use, but I'm going to try to find to do something else because I'm not ready to give up the drinking or the using, but I'm going to try to incorporate. It's only when we're committed to our sobriety that things begin to change, that we have a consistency. And that's what's the great thing about this toolbox. It starts with don't drink or use one day at a time, but then it begins to incorporate other things in our life. It's only when we stop using that these other things make sense. Uh, because we could stop using and change old playgrounds and old playmates, but eventually we're going to find the same playgrounds and the same playmates because that's consistent with our drinking and our using. If we develop a relationship with a power greater than ourselves, with God as we understood God, it's going to be a one-sided relationship. And so we would do things as long as it didn't conflict with, it didn't get in the way of our using. Once we decided that they got in the way, we stopped doing those things, but we continued to drink and use.
Yeah, and you know what was interesting too is, and I remember hearing this for the first time. I remember people saying one is too many, 1,000
Yeah,
enough, and I remember not really understanding that. When I came in when I was 18 years old. By the time I came back in again, I knew exactly what
yeah,
that meant because just like you were talking about, I would try and just, okay, I need to get off. I got to get off hard drugs. I'll try and just drink here and there. I got into the same issues. It was like
Yeah.
whatever I used, I ended up it was just never enough, and I remember hearing that saying, and I think that was a big difference for me towards the end, and it was a big part of my surrender was understanding that it didn't matter what I was drinking or what I was using, I was going to overdo it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we do. We're a classic case of overachievers.
Yeah, yeah. I wanna get into this, comment we had here. This is from, Kayla on YouTube. She says and I can relate to this, but she says, "How do I keep going back to something that made me crazy? Made me feel like I was dying, made myself uncomfortably miserable, and I would have my family remind me every day who I've become." What do you think about that, Robert? Can you relate to that from back in the day?
Oh, sure. Until we view using as death, we're always going to use. One of the things that we had when we were younger, we had what is called the invincibility theory, that we could do anything and we'd be bulletproof against the consequences of that behavior. Um, and and Kayla, I would suggest that, and I don't know if you're clean, if you're not drinking, what your situation is, but there's a difference between not drinking and being sober or recovery. So I would suggest to you what Drew and I have done and others like us have done is jump into recovery feet first, go into the deep end and sit down and enjoy the life and begin to incorporate the things that are suggested of you. So get involved with the home group. Allow people to get to know you in a way that they'll appreciate who you are, not what you do or what you bring to the table. Because we don't bring anything to the table when we're newcomers. But one day at a time, we don't drink, we don't use, and we begin to do what others did is the solution to how I was. If I don't want to be that person anymore, I need to do what others have done to become the person that they have become that I see. It says if you want what we have, you have to want what we have. You have to want the lifestyle. You have to want to be happy, joyous, and free. You have to want to do things more than you want to drink or use. And when you make that transition, when we all make that transition, we swing over to the side where I want what you have. I need to do what you've done.
Yeah, and when you were just talking right now, Robert, and you said, kind of the like, when you finally reach that point where you've had enough out there, where you're just
Yeah,
beat down enough, it's, that's what took me so long. Like, that's why
yeah,
it took me so long to get back in is, the things that I thought I was getting from drinking and using, the things that I thought I was receiving for a long time outweighed the consequences until the end. Like that
yeah,
was my surrender finally was
yeah,
like the consequences and the way I felt and the hopelessness and the depression and the anxiety and the being broke and being underweight and feeling sick and my body hurting that had finally reached more than what I thought, I was getting out of the drinking, and that's how I finally
yeah.
got to that place. I wanna ask you real quick, let's see, we had a few comments come in today. Oh, I love this one. "Just stop doing it. That's all you gotta do. Give it a rest. It's not that difficult." What do you think, Robert?
Well, I agree to a degree. Um, Before anything else can take place, I need to not drink or use. But the person is implying that all I have to do is not drink. That's the implication. That's how they worded it. It we've heard the phrase before, meeting makers make it. Well, they do and they don't. if you're just going to meetings, you'll eventually drink because you need to incorporate the things of the toolbox. You need to get a sponsor. You need to read the 12 and 12. You need to read the basic text or the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. You need to do these other things. Just on drinking is the beginning, but is certainly not the end. Um, how many years have you been sober now?
Coming up on 6.
Coming up on 6. Uh, those of us who have been around for a while know you can't get away with just not drinking or using anymore. It's so far behind you, although drinking or using would interrupt where you're at, just as it would interrupt where I'm at. But it takes so much more. In the beginning, we don't drink or we don't use, but eventually more is going to be required. There's an adage in a book that says to much is given, much is required. So the longer I am clean and sober, the more I need to do these other things to stay clean and sober, because just not drinking or using eventually will not be enough, because I will get so uncomfortable with who I am that to get comfortable again, I need to drink or use. But if I'm incorporating the tools in the toolbox that I need to sustain and to grow my life, then I will begin adding things to my life that will make drinking and using non-essential. It'll remove it, because not because I'm not medicating, but my life has been transformed in a way that I don't need to be medicated anymore. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, and it's I mean, I understand this comment. I've got it a lot before, and it normally I feel like comes from non-alcoholics is what it
Yeah.
seems like, and it's and I totally understand it because they look at our behavior and they see someone that just can't stop picking up the drink, right? Just can't. And they think, dude, put it down. Like I could put down a drink when I want to. I could say no to it. That means you can too. And
Yeah.
I think well, also too, I wanted to mention when I tried this, because I tried this many years. I tried to just say, hey, no drinking, no drugging, and I'll be fine. And what would happen is exactly what you talked about, where all of a sudden I put the drugs and the alcohol down and I realized, oh man, I'm all over the place emotionally, and all I can think about is my past, and I'm so uncomfortable, and I would do nothing to get any relief. I would do absolutely nothing. I'd be like, okay, let's go find a job and work every day or something. And the thing is my mental health, everything about me would get so uncomfortable, like you talked about, to the point where I felt like I had to use. Like the consequences didn't even matter at that point. I had to pick up. And fast forward, I basically just needed a lot more than just not drinking. I needed a lot more. I needed every ounce of recovery that I ended up doing, really, to
You
feel
know,
better.
one of the challenges, so I'm going to suppose that if the person is listening or viewing the Sober Fix podcast and has taken the time to submit a question, they probably have wondered if they're a drug addict or alcoholic. I'm just going to go out there on a limb.
That's probably a good assumption.
I'm going to take a leap on that.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you've thought about, maybe you probably are, because normal drinkers or normal pot smokers or whatever, I don't get that part, but a normal drinker doesn't think they're an alcoholic because they haven't lost their job. They can set it down, they can leave. However, there's a difference between a problem drinker and an alcoholic. If you're a problem drinker, you just need step one. If you're a real alcoholic or a real drug addict, you need all 12 steps. So I would suggest to this person, Try not drinking or using your DOC for a year. See how that goes for you. See if you can set it down for 6 months, 3 months. Let's do a month. Set it down for a month. Let's go 30 days. Set it down for 30 days and then drink again. If you're not drinking more or using more to catch up for what you've missed in those 30 days, you're probably not an alcoholic or drug addict. But if you are, you're going to drink more, you're going to use more, and the longer you go without, if you are alcoholic or drug addict, the more you're going to use to play catch up because your body is going to crave. Once you start drinking or using, your body is going to crave. Your body is not going to be satisfied until you're caught up with all that you refused yourself for that period of time 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. That is invariably true. So try that. Try not drinking for 30 days and see how well that goes. And if you're not willing to take the challenge, you're probably an alcoholic.
Yeah. No, that's a great point because first of all, I couldn't go 30 days. I just couldn't.
I couldn't go 30 minutes, man.
And let's say I could. Let's say that I could. I mean, you explained it so perfectly. I would have to drink so much more to
Yeah.
make up for the time that I had to endure sobriety. Like,
Yeah.
and that's exactly how it was for me. It was exactly, I needed to make up for lost time. I
Yeah.
would feel like I got cheated out of time by having to be sober for 30 days or not being able to drink for 30 days. And I would find myself drinking amounts where I left off, basically. It was
You
where I
know,
left off.
as Father Martin, and if you're not listening to Father Martin, you can Google him on YouTube. Um, Father Martin, he's a priest. He's since passed away out of Baltimore, Maryland. Astounding person. There's a particular talk he does called the Chalk Talk, and he does the 12 steps. Anyway, he talks about alcoholism primarily, but it can go same as drug addiction. Um, that addiction is a progressive disease. In the big book, it says over any considerable period, things get worse and better. Father Martin talks about the disease is progressing even though we're not using. So it's why people who have been sober and clean a long period of time overdose and die so quickly because the body is trying to catch up with where we would have been had we never stopped. And that's frightening.
It is frightening, and I experienced this, and I used to tell people all the time, I'm like, it doesn't matter how long I'm sober. Within 3 weeks, for me,
Yeah.
I am right back to, and it's very shocking too. It's shocking. It's scary. It's frustrating. I just couldn't beat the system. I couldn't beat the system. I would find that because I remember there was one time I had 6 months of sobriety, and I was doing pretty well, and I was starting to feel better, and this and that, and it was the longest I had ever been sober. And I remember turning back to alcohol, started with alcohol, led to the drugs within 2 days. And I was right back to
Yeah.
the same amounts. Maybe I was using a little bit less than I normally would have the first week,
Yeah.
but then right after the first week, I was right back to the same amounts. And I remember I had to check in with the probation officer because I was in drug court at the time, and man, she looked at me and said, "Dude, how did you do so much damage in a few weeks? You know,
Yeah.
you look completely different. You have a warrant out for your arrest. You have all this stuff." And I'm kind of glad now looking back that experience happened, but it really solidified everything for me that I'm always going to be dealing with this thing. Like, it doesn't matter how long I'm sober. If I continue to turn back to it, I'm going to get the same thing every single time. And it took me a long time to realize that, but it was knowledgeable information. I think what it
Yeah.
was for me, it was like that. It was like that last thing I needed to fully surrender, I think,
You
looking
know,
back.
when when I relapsed after 71 days, I came in originally on February 9th of 1986. And in 71 days, April 19th of 1986, I relapsed. And that was the thing. What you just described was the exact thing that scared me back to the rooms. I sat up in my hotel room at the Red Butler Motel on 15th and Fremont in Las Vegas. And it didn't surprise me that I was drinking as much as it surprised me. And this a thought I carry to this day. How did I get back here so quickly?
Uh,
Within 5 or 6 days, depending upon how you count a day, 5 or 6 days, I was worse off than I was prior to coming into Alcoholics Anonymous. In just 71 days, I not only caught up to where I was, but my despair was greater than it ever had been in 5 days. And I'd only been clean and sober, I'd say only. It was the longest I'd been clean and sober, but 71 days. And in 5 days, I was worse off than I ever was before. That scared me back to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous.
yeah, it's a really scary thing, and I wanna ask you too, do you think that kind of this whole concept that we've experienced firsthand, going back out after a period of sobriety and it getting bad insanely quick, do you think that's why people that relapse after so many years have such a hard time getting back in? Do you think it's because it just everything catches up to them so quick and they can't even make it back? Or what do you think that is, the people that have gone out after so many years?
You know, it's it could be both. I think they work in concert with one another because there's a certain amount of pride and gravitas that comes with long-term sobriety. So I think the ego plays a big deal. I can't go back to the rooms and raise my hand as a newcomer. What will people think of me? Just like we were when we first came in. What are they going to think if I end up in treatment, if I end up in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous? Combined with the alcohol and the drug taking charge of us, we're so preoccupied with trying to make up for lost time, romanticizing the drug, romanticizing the drink. Combine that with the fact that I can't go back because they're gonna find out I've been a liar. Because in most cases, in most all cases, the person who relapses is a person who has stopped doing certain things over a given period of time. As a relapse professional, as a relapse counselor, I've worked with people. See, to get sober, we work steps 1 through 12. To relapse, we work steps 12 through 1. It's an interesting concept. I'd like to think I made it up, but I'm sure someone someone thought of it before me. Um, and And when I work with people who relapse, who've been sober a given period of time, I always start with step 12. When did you stop practicing the principles in all your affairs? When did you stop carrying the message? When did you stop acknowledging your relationship with God? When did you stop praying in step 11? When did you stop taking your own inventory in step 10? When did you stop saying sorry in step 9? When did you stop caring about what people thought or those you harmed in step 8? When did you stop caring about your shortcomings? When did you stop asking God to remove the defects of character? When did you stop talking to your sponsor? When did you stop taking a personal inventory? When did you stop turning your will and your life over to the care of God? When did you stop thinking that this insane way of living was worth it? When did you stop thinking your life was unmanageable? Oh, by the way, when did you stop thinking you were powerless over alcohol? So I take the steps in reverse because it's what we're not doing that gets us to drink, not what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a really cool concept. And as you're listing off all those different things, it kind of reminds me too, whenever I had gone back out and gotten really uncomfortable to the point where I thought that maybe I could do something better. Maybe I could perform a little bit better out there drinking this time. Maybe I could make something
Yeah.
different happen. I really had disconnected from a lot of things prior
Sure.
to that. It really was. It started for me, it was like, "Oh, I'm feeling better now. I really don't need to do as much to really treat this thing anymore." And before you know it, I'm not talking to a lot of my sober friends and network and community, and I don't feel like doing any meeting stuff, and I don't need to pray as much. And it's like slowly but surely, I just kind of started putting my guard down on all different things that I had worked so hard to build up over the time that
Yeah.
I was sober. And it always ended up with me just getting so unbearably uncomfortable that I couldn't take it anymore. So that's cool concept, Robert, working from 12 back to 1 and kind of seeing like where did you disconnect at and all that.
Yeah. It's consistent with everyone who's relapsed.
Yeah. And it's interesting too because and we were talking about this before we started, but it's just I don't know, anytime we're not moving forward, we're oftentimes, unfortunately moving backwards, like we talked
That's a
about
that
before we
you know what? That's a scientific principle, and it's a fact. You can refute it all you want, but all you're doing is denying science.
Yeah, I wanna read you this comment, someone's mother wrote this, has to do with meth, but she said, "Thank you, for talking about your story because it gives me hope. Unfortunately, my 23-year-old son is one of those people that you described who developed drug induced schizophrenia from using meth. He is in a psychiatric hospital. I know he wants to get out so he can use again. It breaks my heart. His addiction has been 6 years of hell."
Yeah.
What does that bring up for you, Robert? Anything?
You know, it brings to mind the devastation of our treatable condition. Sadly, and I mean sadly, um, the majority of individuals who are addicted to drugs and alcohol die too young, untreated, without ever experiencing life as it was intended to live. And sadly, there are statistics to our disease. I would suggest to this lady that she seeks out Al Anon because we need to understand from the other side of the table that the person's addiction is owned by them. Zig Ziglar, great communicator, motivational speaker, said, if you're born poor, it's not your fault, but if you die poor, it is. So, regardless of how this young man was raised, and we all make mistakes as parents, uh, at some point, his or her addiction needs to be their responsibility. And this person is addicted to meth because they've chosen to not seek other remedies. I'm sure if this person is under psychiatric care, they may or may not ever get well to where we would recognize wellness. But if they're under psychiatric care, they know they've been told that you need to stop. And just to her comment, I know he only wants to get well and get out of the hospital so he can use again. You know, what do you do with the person who has decided to self-destruct? And I'm sure that at this facility, they're getting fairly good, consistent wellness tips, how not to drink, how not to use. I'm sure they've been introduced on one level or another to Narcotics Anonymous. And I've known too many people who were just as hopeless as this person lead wonderful lives. So I would suggest that this mom go to Al Anon and find out that it's not her fault, that there's a way to grieve over someone without blaming yourself and disconnecting from the emotional um, umbilical cord that addiction brings to a person who's watching this person destroy themselves. And and this person stays sick because they've decided that staying sick is easier than getting well.
Yeah, I think that's a great response back to, and so much valuable information in that, Robert. I'll kind of piggyback on that as well. It's man, it's just such a strong, it is such a strong disease, problem, disorder, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's so strong to think, and I relate to this a little bit, to be in a psychiatric place, right? Because and what she was commenting on was me talking about meth psychosis. It was one of
Mhm.
those videos. So to be experiencing all of that to the point where you go to a psychiatric place or a rehab for me or jail, whatever it is, and to still not be able to not you can't wait to get out to use is
Yeah,
that shows how powerful it is. It's scary how powerful it is, and I've been there too. I remember being at my 5th rehab and probably 10th detox, and all I could wait to do was get out or drink or use, and there was
yeah,
nothing that anyone could have done for me at that time to change my mind. But, I would piggyback on what Robert said as well with the Al-Anon. It had so much it improved my relationship with my parents so much even before I got sober, if
yeah.
that makes any sense. And there is always hope. There was times where I was running around homeless, talking to myself, running away from FBI agents and helicopters and all sorts of stuff. And my life is way better today. But the one difference was I had to be ready towards the
Yeah,
end. I had to. I had to. We just can't give it away, and I know Robert will second this. We just can't give people recovery or sobriety. We just can't give it to them as much as we can if they're ready, but we can't give it to them when they're not. If Would you
that's
agree
right.
with that, Robert?
No, I agree completely. That's why step 12 in the big book in the plan of recovery says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry the message to alcoholics and to practice these principles alone. All we can do is try. All you can do is have a platform for outreach. All I can do is go to meetings, um, broadcast on my channels. All we can do is try. I went to a treatment center for women last night and I spoke and I said, I want you to understand that there are some that are going to get well and some that are going to use. Regardless of your decision, I'm going to wake up tomorrow, which is today, and I'm going to be clean and sober, regardless of what you do or don't do, because all my requirement has been met. I tried to carry the message. Whether or not you receive it is really up to you.
Yeah, that totally makes sense to me. I know we're getting towards the end, Robert. I want to bring up one more comment here. It says, in early sobriety, I always wanted to be able to go out with friends and have one or two like normal drinkers could do, then just carry on with the day. Then I realized one or two wouldn't do anything. It just ends with all of them and more. Since one or two would never be an option, I just agreed with myself that zero will always be the best answer. I definitely don't go hang out as often, but it's for the best for everyone. What do you think of that, Robert? They realized probably zero is better than one or two.
You know, God bless this person in finding out that while there was still time, that zero is better than one or two because one or two is not even a vocabulary. You know, my wife drinks and and she invariably feels uncomfortable when she has 2 drinks. I'm I'm just starting to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
She after 2 drinks, she's feeling a little powerless. I'm feeling powerful. And you know and I know it is the first drink that gets you drunk. It is the first line. It is the first shot. It is the first hit off that pipe that gets you high or drunk. Only because once we have one, we crave two. Once we use two, we crave three. Um, as you, my middle name is More, and that's how I live my life. The fact that I'm like this listener who decided that zero is better than one, I can control zero. As long as I don't have any, I'm fine. The minute I have one, I just have to laugh because I've never. And could you imagine if someone laid out a nice line of cocaine and they laid out 2 lines and you snorted one and you said, I'm gonna leave the other one. Or the bartender said, "Would you like another?" And we said, "No." That that's not even in our vocabulary.
No,
You know,
I'm good. I'm feeling it.
yeah, you want to hit that again? Oh, no, thanks. Go share that with somebody else. Take it to that room. You don't. And in the meantime,
Yeah.
we're grabbing the pipe physically from this guy, just hitting that one more time. Let me. Oh,
Yeah.
you know, we only let it go when we're sure it's coming back.
Yeah, yeah. I remember hearing some guys talking about it was kinda like the, try some controlled drinking, but he was talking about controlled crack smoking, and he said, "Just get it in your mouth, and instead of inhaling it, just blow it out real quick," and he said, "See how long that'll last for you."
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
oh, it's good stuff. Man, Robert, thanks so much, man, for taking the time to come on here and spread all your, experience and just kind of all the cool stuff going on with you. Good luck with, then let me know how it goes with the new meeting
Yeah.
that you're starting and everything. And I'll ask you one more question, kind of here, just to wrap things up. But what is your goal over the next? What would you say? Let's say 6 months to a year. Do you think it's really get that meeting growing, or is there anything else you're working on? Do you have any speaking stuff coming up? What's a goal of yours over the next six
Well,
months?
I'm speaking next Saturday in Orlando, Florida, at the East Bay Club. On April 11th, I'm the guest speaker for a state convention in Utah. But as far as my goal is to reach the newcomer, and that's why we're starting this meeting. So over the next 6 months, it's really going to have my attention because in my evaluation of this area of Florida I live, one thing that's really missing, and some people hit toward the mark, and I'm so grateful to Rich and to others who gave me this concept. I really want to reach the newcomer because the newcomer, I've got to lead this program with someone. I'm 72 years old. I'm not going to live forever, although I debate that on a regular basis. And and I have to realize that young men like you and Justin and Jason and Whitney and others have to carry the ball once I'm gone. And so I'm building a legacy of recovery. And I want to find the newcomers who can carry on the message when I'm no longer able or here to carry the message. That's my goal. And that's why I'm starting this meeting. The toolbox meeting will start February 7th or February 12th in Daytona Beach at the Unity Church. And it's going to be geared around the newcomer who will make a decision to get well, that I have someone to hand this off to when it comes time to hand it off. That's my goal.
Yeah, and that's great. And keep us updated on how that goes with everything once you guys open up. It's coming here soon. So, Robert, thanks for your time, man. Good to
Thanks,
see
Ben.
you.
I always appreciate your effort.
Oh yeah, it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Guys, you made it.
Another full episode. Can you believe it? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you haven't already, drop a comment. Let us know what's going on with you. How long have you been sober? What's working for you? What are you struggling with? Don't forget to stop by our TikTok and also our Instagram. And if you want to come on the show, tell your story. soberfixpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. And if you're looking for sober coaching, I will put that in the episode details with Josh Wool, Sober Creative. Let's go, guys. Have another great week.